Hi, this is Praveen here. Can somebody test my voice? Namaskara. ನಿಮ್ಮ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. Yeah.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Fantastic. Clear. ನನ್ನ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಇದೆಯಾ?
Yes, sir.
Okay, should I come closer to the mic?
Yes, sir. Everything is fine. And another 3 minutes, we should go live with the program.
Wonderful. So I'll go on mute now.
Okay. Praveen, my colleague, Mr. Glenson, faculty from Mechatronics Department, will anchor the show.
Hi, Glenn.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning to you. So I'm clear, right? My video, my audio everything is clear.
Yes, you are, sir.
Okay.
ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ದೀಪಕ್ ಹತ್ರ ಹೇಳಿ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿದು ಇದಿದೆ, ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಾಲ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ಇದು ಮೀಟಿಂಗಿಗೆ. ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ನೋಡಿ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್. ಒಂದ್ ನಿಮಿಷ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ನೋಡುವ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. Check. Good morning, everyone. Welcome all to today's webinar by Mr. Praveen Kamath. We'll be starting at sharp 10 a.m. However, in case you have any queries that you would want to put forth to Mr. Praveen Kamath, you can put it in the chat window. Our coordinator for the session, Anchor Mr. Glenson, will take those questions later and put it to our guest speaker, Mr. Praveen Kamath. Thank you.
It is.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the webinar series here at Mangalore Institute of Technology and Engineering. Welcome to this webinar on COVID-19, the challenges and the way ahead. I'm Glenson Tony, manager of the MITE Incubation Center. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the webinar series here at Mangalore Institute of Technology and Engineering. Technology is one thing that was the silver lining during the fight against COVID-19, the challenges and the way ahead. Technology actually changed the landscape as how we fought against COVID-19. Of course, we had a lot of doctors, nurses, health workers, and policemen right on the ground. But there was yet another bunch of people who sat behind the curtain, worked, innovated to ensure that these people are equipped with the right things. And those are engineers. Think of a fight against COVID-19 with no head mask, with no sanitizers, with no thermal scanners or ventilators. It would have been havoc. And that's where the role of engineers can never be undermined. But definitely, that comes up with inherent challenges. What are those? So that's why we are here today. If we look at just an example of an education industry, just look at the way it is transformed in a span of 2 months. We were all used to chalk and talk method, and the transition from chalk and talk to an online was quick enough. It just took us 15 days, though the transition was difficult initially, but I'm sure the transition was very smooth. And that's how every industry has transformed today. So that comes up with challenges. So young graduating students, you must be well aware as what are the changes that has rampantly happened in every industry around. Because when you go out there to the industry, there are a lot of transitions that has happened. From remote meetings to work at home, everything has become a norm today. Though the industry is stable, there is a lot of transitions that has happened, and that's why you got to be well aware and you got to be prepared to face these challenges. And that's exactly why we are here today to discuss about the challenges that COVID-19 is posing and what young engineering graduates like you must be doing to ensure that you keep up to the pace and you can be placed. And to talk about this, we could not have anybody better than Mr. Praveen Kamath himself. Mr. Praveen Kamath is the HR head and global delivery manager and functions manager at Wipro. A Mangalorean, he has his bachelor's in computer science and master's in social work. He started off as a senior HR executive in Jindal Group and grew up quickly in the ladder. He became the HR head at Tyco Healthcare and the Cambridge Integrated Services. He has been associated with Wipro for the last 13 years and is currently the general manager and HR head at Wipro. He takes care of the global delivery and enablement services. And he's also part of the strategic team that develops strategies for Wipro. Well, MIT has always ensured that we are connected with the best of the best industries and we have the know-how of the best of the industry leaders. Mr. Praveen Kamath is one of our most trusted and endowed industry leader who's been associated with MITE for so long. He is a guest lecturer at the Department of Management Studies, and he is a person who's held a lot of faculty development programs to ensure that our faculty are in tab with the industry practices. So thank you, sir, for being with us in realizing our dreams and walking along with us, walking with our students and hand-holding them in realizing their dreams. It's indeed an honor to have you here. Welcome to you, sir.
Thanks, Glenson. It's indeed a pleasure to be associated with MITE. I can't articulate like Glenson, who did a fabulous job of putting together an intro for the session as well as to myself. I'd like to thank Rajesh Chopraji, Narendra, who is a great friend of mine, and of course, Prasad sir, working with me very closely. I associate myself in the management school of MITE. The mightiness of MITE is very impressive, and I've been allowed to be associated with MITE during my personal time, during my vacations, share the little knowledge we bring to the table by virtue of being in the industry for a couple of decades. Today, the intention of being here to ensure we understand this challenge from a perspective of student and a little bit of perspective on as teachers. If there is something which has changed, and if it has changed, what would be that? And what would require to be changed in the days to come? I'm not going to talk about the impact of pandemic situation which we are going through across the globe. I would touch upon what are the little corrections which we may have to do, which will have a large sustained impact as students as well as teachers, which we need to sustain over a period of time to ensure we get back to the best in class situation, both in terms of our ability to deliver services to or our preparedness to provide the services for which we are getting educated. COVID-19 situation, while it has impacted the globe from October last year, India got severely impacted, I think, early days of March. And it's picking up now, and you will see a slow and sustained effort to bring the effects of COVID-19 in the next 3 to 6 months. So this situation is going to be as severe as ever for the next 3 to 6 months. And it's going to sustain once the vaccination is given to the larger mankind across the globe. And India is playing a pivotal role in identifying and giving the desirable quality as well as quantity of medicine as well as appropriate medication for COVID-19 patients and in general to protect ourselves from the severity of the impact for all of us. But we all understand the nuances and we hear this from our own knowledge base. My suggestions and my inputs here would be to keep our steadfast focus on what I can do as an individual student, what I can do as a teacher, to mitigate the challenges posed by uh, the situation, as well as prepare ourselves, keeping in mind next 2 to 3 quarters, ensuring and minimizing or neutralizing the impact of this situation. The largest of the industries which has impacted, which includes industries such as hospitality, any industry which requires human being to be present, which includes automobile manufacturing, retail, real estate, construction. These industries have severely impacted given the fact that your absence of being there had a severe impact to the industry as well as the people and the jobs which used to be created. While I continue to believe this had an impact on industries which we very well know and read about, IT is one industry which has relatively less impacted by the pandemic situation. While I continue to believe the scale in which this has impacted all may not have impacted so much on the industry which we see when we represent IT and ITES. The other scale of measurement of the impact is amongst the layered industries. When I say layered industries, there are startups, there are mid-sized companies, there are large-scale organizations. I think you will continue to see a struggle amongst people who have started in the universe of doing business, startups, new age industries, mid-sized organizations which will have severe talent and cash crunch, and of course, large-scale industry which had relatively lesser impact. So in this kind of a situation, it's important to acknowledge the fact that this situation is serious. Secondly, to leverage our own utilization of time and effort and energy and ability to skill up is extremely important. And also acknowledging our own ability to prepare, which can help us present our portfolio as a student, portfolio as a teacher to the larger industry and job situation. As a student, my first observation of learnability as an aspect of future, I think we had very little impact from the pandemic situation. I will justify why I'm saying this. Our ability to learn, our ability to skill up, our ability to have status wherein we are able to cope up with relearning, upskilling, and reskilling has not changed much except the medium of approach. The rest all remains the same, be it your approach towards learnability, be it your ability to be serious about what you're learning, be it your investment of time and effort or money for education. Nothing has changed from that standpoint. But the approach for you to realize learning has changed significantly than what it was said to be in the past. While India grew in the last 5 years, 60 years of change has happened. The real impact of digitization or technological advancement came into existence in terms of realizing the value proposition has happened today because of restrictive environment of we not being easily available in an environment of education which was defined in terms of being in the classroom. So to that extent, the approach, the method has changed, while the intent did not change much. The second aspect of what can change or bring about a change in our ability would be the acknowledgement of the fact that the particular reality of learning in the model in which we are being exposed in the last 2 months, and I'm given to understand Mike was quick enough to start with online learning. I think the reality of being in that environment will be true for the next 2 or 3 quarters. And believe me, you may not agree with me the fact that this will continue for 2 to 3 quarters, but my gut feel from the situation which we are going through at this point in time, this may continue till about your entire academic year. So be mentally prepared to make sure that you don't take anything which you are doing currently in terms of realizing the value proposition of online learning less seriously than what you have ever done in the past or in the near past. So your ability to be serious on learning through online methodologies of learning is going to sustain, and it's going to stay for the next couple of quarters, if not the entire academic year. The third important point which I want to bring to the notice of children who are currently getting graduated as well as getting into, um, uh, in their last trimester or semester, approaching the industry, would be to make sure your attitude of being available for learning has to be far, far better than what it was in the past. With these three background, which I've just mentioned, I want to give you some solutions, both from a standpoint of understanding industry in general and academia in specific. I just want you to keep in mind certain approaches for the next few months. A, as it when you get to know your alums, your alumni, your industry friends, your teachers, your professors, your uncles, your aunts, your industry colleagues. Make sure during your time available to you to learn, take up all those hobby projects, online projects, which you can do sitting at home, even at a cost of getting paid or not paid. I think your willingness, your 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 aptitude and your attitude towards making sure you're able to take up these projects at your personal time will be very, very crucial for you to acknowledge. Now, for this, your relentless belief that college will do it, let it be. But I continue to believe what you can do from your own side will help you to skill up, and your ability to, your affinity to be closer to the reality of understanding industry and making sure in the next few months you will be employable by industries which I'm talking about. Now, industries such as startups and the mid-sized organization will never be able to hire laterals because they're A, expensive, B, that kind of a realization of business may not be there for startups and mid-sized organization. So given this kind of a situation, the learning curve a fresher will take is equivalent to growth of that business in that particular sector. So industries are willing to invest in freshers, people who come with an element of primary knowledge on or the skill set in your super specialization, but willing to stay put in terms of investing time and effort to scale up until the business also ramps up. So the the ramping up of business is directly proportional to the learning curve of a fresher who's going to join uh, an industry, an organization, a startup. So to that extent, do believe in a logic that given an opportunity, your time consumed to learn a new skill while on the job will be equivalent to the time taken for business to stand up. So that's the concept. Each one of you will have to sell hard as student and as teachers, as professors, when you go and reach out to the industry and organizations. The second important factor, people who are in terms of their abilities and their skill set and their academic scores, who are at the right hand side of the bell curve, who are the best in class, who have been scoring in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, will have minimum impact of this pandemic situation. They anyway get placed. They will find themselves in terms of identifying a job role for them in an organization which may reduce uh, uh, the kind of salary structure which is currently being given, but they will end up getting a job and getting employed by the organizations which will anyway hire, given the fact that the next year campus will start only in the last week of, or the last quarter, months of the last quarter, which is early December or January, is when organizations will start coming in once they see light at the end of the tunnel in terms of business ramps and they're able to stand tall to the business realities of their customers. To that extent, there is no impact for people who are going to pass out next year. People who are passing out this year, there is an element of delay in terms of onboarding these people, especially as far as large organizations are concerned. Mid-size and small-scale industry might take time to hire, or they may not hire. So in this kind of a situation, it's important that you don't ignore your academic excellence in terms of scoring well, in terms of getting your grades right. So for the set of people who are at the right-hand side of the bell curve, who are best in class in terms of scoring, will have less or very, very, very minimal impact on their ability to replace themselves. The middle and the lower side of the bell, people who are not able to score well, people who are not able to stand up in terms of their aggregate being up to a mark wherein they are identified as one among the many good students. I think those are the people who will find significant amount of challenge in terms of identifying themselves for a job or an assignment or a hobby project or a live project in the industry. The people who are in the middle can either make themselves available in, uh, in terms of scaling up their skill sets and by gaining the time advantage of skilling up and scoring well in the next 2, 3, 4 trimesters or semester which you have in your hand. So it's important. 60% of the crowd who has not been best in class in terms of academic excellence have to make an attempt to be in the last quadrant, which will help them to scale up in terms of availability to the industry to pick them up. So, in broad sense, does this change the landscape of skills which you require? I'm afraid no. In terms of your skill set, you will continue to see the demands of the skill set will remain the same, whether you are from electrical, ENC, mechanical, or instrumentation department, or that specialization. You continue to see demand in technology companies coming and hiring you all in the days to come. What's important for you to realize at this point in time, which is very different from what you did not realize when you are coming to school and you've been lectured and you're being available for your teachers to give you the desirable skills. What is very, very different in today's time would be, are you able to capably put across all the bite-sized learning which you have? Are you able to look at some videos and e-learn yourself? Are you able to effectively join those webinars which can super specialize or give you some super specialist thought process in terms of kindling your new thoughts? Are you being uh, are you willing to take up those assignments which you can do it by yourself by identifying uh, uh, those online sessions or online courses outside of your college defined hours or college defined course curriculum? Are you able to learn from your peers who have passed out in the industry and what are they doing for their uh, uh, industry colleagues and employees? What are those subjects which they are investing time and effort on? Do you have skill-based communities to work with? Do you have enough mentors and people who can give you guidance? And do you have a clearly led learning paths for yourself to engage your time? Now, it might look gospel when I say this, and it might go as a sure waste of time when I'm presenting these views. I think online learning or your ability to be present in front of your teachers at this point in time gives you a lot of freedom to do what you want to do. While I continue to believe that if you don't take advantage of spaces and the personal time out which you have, pre and post your classes, with all this investment of methodology which I've used, which I've just mentioned, if you're not able to leverage it, I think during this time, you will have a biggest disadvantage not being presentable to the industry to be absorbed. Your learning will become very remote and it is agnostic of time zone to learn. You will suddenly realize virtual classroom experiences for the first time in the history, in your history or your life, thereby making you a to rethink, put that additional hours of practice, put that additional hours of consultation, and put that additional hours in terms of learning through other complementary virtual experience learning session through video chats, calls, and meetings. It's extremely important that you start collaborate through video chats, calls, and meetings for relearning or upskilling your existing skill set. There are enough and more uh, uh, online learning uh, platforms available, starting from understanding the basic concepts which you learned in physics, mathematics, or any of your core subjects. Your ability to access chats, files, make sure you join meeting groups and switch between uh, your classrooms and the meeting groups, which can value add to your additional skill sets. When I say additional skills, hobby projects and things like that. So you have to make sure you have an approach and an attitude of collaborative learning. Your teacher will become more of a mentor and facilitator at this point in time, given the fact that you are not available all the time with the teachers who are known to you. It is strongly governed by self-directed learning. So you have a choice to learn, you have a choice not to learn and waste your time. To that extent, the gospel of self-directed learning, some people call it as self-learning, has become a reality for all of us during these times. So your ability to pick up something new, your ability to connect and collaborate with people in the industry, your ability to connect with your alums and alumni, your joining hands with a geek in the market who started a startup and collaborating with him to learn something very, very new will be the key reality for you. Now, the choice largely depends on you as a student to leverage to your advantage both your time, which is available, and the approach which you have been used to, and how do you leverage the new approach of self-learning, online learning, collaborative learning, and learning to uh, networks which you built or you are going to build uh, will help you to sustain your future. Having said that, uh, last couple of thoughts on the integrities of being a best student. Never ignore your routine classroom tests, online tests, which are very routine in nature, which could be once a week, once a month, which is being conducted by your teachers online. Score well because there could be all possibilities that your midterm or your final term or your 3 hour exam may not happen. So the only way to you to score and showcase your excellence in studies would be through all these small module tests or small format of testing your knowledge. So do not ignore any one of them. Secondly, as and when you have doubts on your subjects, make collaborative learning teams through a social platform which is available and dedicate some time for social learning. So you might have set of students who are good at certain studies, certain subjects, create rooms, create video chat rooms where you join them or join together to clarify all the doubts. One way to do it is one-on-one classes, but I think there are enough social platforms where you can join collaborating with each other at a particular time. So you can define that specific time and learn from each other. And thirdly, do not waste. There is a tendency in all of us to the same place where we belong to. There is a tendency in all of us to think that this is going to stop very quickly at campus, and I will be able to make up for what I've lost and let me enjoy my life. I think all that the lifestyle which you have currently through online learning might continue for the second year, as I mentioned in the past. So having said that, I think it's some insights for teachers who are very good in that subject, and if they are able to really carve out the methodology to survive distractions of students, a methodology to create an environment of social learning. There are enough videos available for the teachers to learn the art and the nitty-gritties of engaging students. I think one has to learn that. A constant craving for knowledge and doing class workshops, creating groups within the online learning social platforms. How do you create smaller pedagogies of learnings, which is of 15 to 20 minutes? How do you make sure your impatience can be tolerated while on your online course, when you're teaching an online course? And it's a different ballgame when you are doing an online course for the students, because half of the time you don't know what the student is doing, and your ability and your creativity to engage them in that 1 hour, 15 minutes or 1 hour which you teach will really define your methodology and just really help you to rethink on the methodology which you have been adopting in the past. So you may have to really work through um, um, the pedagogy which is known to you, the pedagogy which you can leverage at this time when you have uh, an opportunity to teach students online. For me, it's been 8 weeks now. I started doing sessions on the weekends with the students of business. For me, it was a really difficult task, and it took me 4 to 5 sessions to get up to speed in terms of complete engagement of my students in the classroom. So there are various methodologies and pedagogies which I currently use, which is helping me to bring back the impact of learning which the student should go through in the district. So, in case any of the student teachers who are currently listening to my lecture now want those tidbits, I'm more than happy to share uh, uh, with them separately. Or you can ask me questions on this. Having said that, I think there are skill sets which is very important from a talent standpoint, technical skill set, whether it is operational analysis, whether it is technology design, whether it is understanding of equipments, installation programming, operation monitoring, uh, uh, troubleshooting, uh, or quality control. Any of the technical skills which you learn in your super specialization of which you have taken in your super specialization which you've taken. I think it's important for you to see what are those best in class methodologies which is available for you to learn those skills. And you better get equipped thinking that this situation will continue and here to stay for next 3 to 4 quarters. What I will do now is I've spent around 34 minutes speaking. I will take a pause here and take few questions and then maybe we'll continue. So I'm on the chat room. I can see your comments on the chat room. You can put your questions on the chat room and then I can one by one. Glenn has some questions, he said. So I will wait for his questions to come.
So thank you. Thanks for this detailed and elaborative, actually the precise chalk down of what has happened, what is the way ahead. I have a few questions from students and teachers here. I would like to take them up. The first question being, the teacher asked, I mean, in the last 3 months, the way teacher and student interacts have completely changed. You see a complete change in the landscape of teaching. So what do you feel? What do you think is the future of learning? Do we actually would have a rampant shift to this mode of teaching in the long run?
I think this is going to be a reality for at least next 3 quarters, if not the entire academic year. Having said that, this would be a good time for us to introspect ourselves. How do I, as a teacher, can complement my existing instructor-led methodology, which stand in front of my students and guest lecture or lecture the students, versus how do I complement with enough learning skills which is available, which is self-directed. So the pedagogy of teaching might have to be changed. Let me give an example. How do you make sure a new concept after giving his lecture for say 15 minutes, get to know they have understood it by a rapid fire quiz for 30 seconds. Now, do I need to design that rapid fire quiz? Yes, I need to. Secondly, do I need to have enough platform support, online platform support, wherein people can go through the maybe MCQ online and they can, and it is timed, they are able to take, and it comes to you as a repository for that particular class. So that's one methodology. The second methodology, can I create groups of or teams of people, say after completing the 50 minutes of this lecture session, can I create groups of teams who will be able to present quick summary of a concept which is being taught by distributing in groups the subjects which is being learned, and every group in turn is able to explain that subject which is being taught for the last 15 minutes. Now, you may not be able to give time for every student, but you can certainly, in your 30-hour session for a subject or 24 hours of a session for a given subject, you will be able to cover at least 50 to 60% of your student to start with, followed up by enough uh, self-directed learning insights. Example, links to videos, and asking them to write a summary of that video when they come back to college, to the online class the next day. Uh, Give them an assignment which is bite-sized in learning. When I say bite-sized in learning, give them an article which is known to you and you decipher the entire article and tell them what do you decipher out of this article? What are the learnings from this article? Give them a theorem or a formula half done and ask them to solve them. So I think uh, the more we engage with the students, the more agility of the students to like your sessions will happen rather than the unidirectional one-way direction of teaching, which I'm doing now, right? Wherein I'm just sharing my knowledge unidirectional. So the more engagement you do, I think the more it would be for all of us to really gain importance of online learning. Yeah, Glenn.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So, you've been highlighting a lot about collaborative learning, and you are actually stressing on the need for students to collaborate among themselves and work more rather than a unidirectional teaching. Thanks a lot for that. Now, if you look at newspaper or TV channel, there's a lot of fear psychosis that is being built with big numbers being said that a lot of people are losing jobs. So I guess the next question is just out of that. So here's a student who asks, what do you think is the percentage of increase or decrease in recruitment to the IT industry from students from the non-IT background?
Okay, so this has been a question which has been asked by many forums when I spoke in such forums. Your ability to get a job pre or post COVID as a student will be minimized if you are able to showcase a skill set which you can easily crack. Let me give an example. Do you have coding skills? Do you have programming skills? Do you have an ability to stand tall, a technical conversation, which is very, very basic in nature, if a IT recruiter comes and asks you? Now, these three realities may not have changed much. They will continue to believe coding skills and programming skills are the key for you to get an entry into an IT organization, which is largely service-based organizations, because service-based organizations will have the largest of the volumes, whereas a product-based IT company would be very, very choosy in terms of your knowledge base and your ability to understand the concept a little higher. So super specialization skills are a little higher in the product-based organization. So you may not have that much of volume of hiring there. As far as IT services are concerned, I think you will not see a major difference, subject to your inability to not to do or crack a code or not able to present yourself by writing a program well. So to that extent, pre and post COVID, there is no difference. As long as you are able to crack the entrance of an IT organizations as part of their selection strategy. However, the funnel has narrowed, and it will narrow for this year's students who are going to join. The students who are going to get selected next year, I don't think it's business as usual for them. There is nothing going to change. Industries will hire in good numbers because anyway, the students who are getting selected for next year are anyway onboarded in the month of May 2021. So to that extent, the impact is minimal or low, and organizations will be in a hurry to make up for the losses which they made by nurturing young talent who are freshers, taking a larger learning curve rather than hiring people who are laterals. So the people at the middle level of the hierarchy of skill set who have been a subject matter expert or a person with relatively higher amount of experience will take a larger time or bigger time to get into the job market than a fresher. So fresher has an advantage. The only disadvantage for fresher is non-capitalizing of time available with him or her now and enjoying life, which I think most of you do as students. I think the more investment of time you make in terms of leveraging your existing bandwidth, because you have relatively lesser time frame for to be in the classroom and relatively larger time frame on a daily basis to self-learn. The more investment you make there, I think your ability to present yourself a job in an IT services company will be realized.
Right. Thank you, sir. You invest more time and leverage on your skills is what you say. There was another question which said, what is it going to be like to feel to be in the batch of 2021? I think you've already answered that. So I'm not asking you on that. So let me take another 2-3 more questions. So there's one person who says that most of the companies today have transformed and they are switching to work from home. Do you think this culture is going to be sustained for long?
The answer is yes, and it will be gradual. I think the pandemic situation itself calls for a sustained relook at the ways of working. There will be a gradual shift in that direction. People who are able to work and don't have a direct impact on the customer and value proposition for customers by being working from home will continue to work from home. I think this reality feel will continue in the days to come. The only set of people who will have to be working from office will be those industries, those organizations which can do work from home remotely, not being present in front of the customer or not having enough infrastructure, both in terms of skill set and in terms of enablement of work. Those are the people who may have to quickly get back to office once the situation sustains and stabilizes. In both the categories, as far as India is concerned, I think will take a long time to get back to 100% operations from work from office. It might take another quarter, is my guess, if not the entire calendar year. But will that sustain? If the pandemic situations within vaccination comes up, I think industry might slightly open up for people to work from office. But till then, I think this reality, as long as it doesn't impact the end customer or client, will continue. Because large portions of IT, ITES, manufacturing, automobile, airlines, all that operations which can be done from home will continue to be that way, and which include support functions too.
Right. Thank you so well. Let me take one last question. So it says, now the assessments that we have for the first year, second or third year are not well defined. Every institution has its own way of doing it. So how do you think companies would assess the ability of a student? Would these grades that we do now, with the exams that we do now, really matter? Or would you have a completely different way of judging and looking at the prospect of the candidate?
So I don't think, Glenson, it will change. I think the methodology of assessment will continue to be online for next year students. You may not find large amount of corporates coming to your campus for hiring. Um, Largely, you will find people to take up, I'm sorry, assessment online. Um, even the even the final stages of selection might happen online for students of students who are going to get selected for next year. Um, the, the volume of intake might come down uh, primarily because there is an apprehension amongst the business units uh, that will 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 the business will be uh, able to meet the business demands because the demands will pick up only in the last few months of last quarter this year and early next quarter. So you will find a drastic shift of campus hiring happening uh, after, say, October, November, December, and might ramp up till April, May, even June next year. So there will be a shift in the time frame. Numbers might be slightly lower, but my guess is I have a converse thinking. It should be higher than any time because business may not be able to afford an expensive resource in the future. I gave that the logic, right? I gave you the logic of, business might willing to invest more with freshers and take larger time frame, to pick up skills, whereby by the time you have a business ramp up, you'll have a learning curve also ramped up from the freshers. So I have a converse thinking. I may be right or wrong, but the fact is that could be the best business reality rather than affording an expert at this point in time. Let me give an example. Of IT companies across the globe, the the CTOs, the CXOs uh, are getting new business, having rationalized to those essentials which requires them to run that business. For example, if there is a CTO of a telecom business, he would like to get the IT services company to work with them only in those essential services today. Now, will he or she be able to invest in those services which are long-term basis? That process will start early calendar next year. So to that extent, your ability to identify total number of people required for your given business will be realized by the business units themselves early next year, next calendar year. So IT services company in India might be shying to look at the same kind of numbers to start with, but I think there will be a sudden spike as we see a downward trend of the pandemic situation across the globe. Today, it looks like a doomsday, but let me tell you, people forget very quickly once the vaccination comes in, and people are willing to take risks and get back to normal shape very, very, very quickly. So there is a shifting time, there is a lag of time, but there would be a very minimal impact in terms of volume, is my guess.
All right. So you are actually painting a very good picture ahead. For a batch of 2021, you are actually painting a very good positive picture out there. So before I wrap up this question and answer session, I just had one last question. So you said that next year, most probably, the entire recruitment processes are going to go online. So I think, do you think that poses the colleges with yet another task of training the students on online etiquettes?
Yeah, I think we colleges like MITE has been completely equipped with the infrastructure, and I've seen that by associating with MITE for several years, and both your chairman and Narendra and the departmental heads I've been working relentlessly to equip yourself to be where you are currently. And the lab which I think Narendra is sitting is the digital lab. So you have no worries in terms of your infrastructure uh, uh, availability. Students have to worry from a standpoint of preparing themselves to be taking up these assessments, which is time agnostic and place agnostic. So if I'm a student, I should be equipped to take up assessment, having enough infrastructure support and connectivity and uh, ability to have enough speed by doing it at my pace, because that will determine my ability to crack that test. Um, so my sincere submission to students is to look at every opportunity to self-assess yourself in subjects which you want to excel and those areas which you are not good at. For example, how do I be behaviorally presenting well in an online interview? You may be great at cracking an assessment tester, which is time tested with a video which gets switched on when you take that test. You might be extremely good at cerebral activity in terms of cracking an assessment test, but you may not be so good at presenting yourself uh, an online face-to-face interview. Now, there are nuggets and softer skill set which you need to be prepared, which will help you to impress on an interviewer. And normally, a face-to-face interview is the last stage of your cracking or breaking the interview, right? Uh, or getting selected. I think those realities have to be realized by students. I think if students are not able to realize that reality and take it lightly at this point in time without preparing well, I think they will pay a price. And once you pay a price, there will be a larger delay for you to get back to the job market. So, team, so you should be really careful. And I'm more than happy to give you guidance around what are those nuggets which you need to prepare yourself. If you think you need those nuggets from me, I'm just putting my email ID here. This is true with all primary schools today, okay? I know my daughter learns through Alan and her online classes. Today, the high school students are realizing this very well and they're picking up speed. And that's the reality for this crowd for the last 4, 5, 6 years. Online learning has been a reality. Byju's is in existence and making money the last several years. Now, Prasad sir is asking a question from an Indian perspective. We will miss out on internship, which is a huge loss. Sir, empirical studies and secondary data research methodology is the only methodology for us to learn at this point in time. In fact, I was talking to a student from a tier 2 MBA school, and she was asking me for some help in terms of guiding her in a project. So my submission to students of MBA, you may have to do, multiple empirical studies or secondary data analysis or research analysis on the subject which is given to you or the specialization which you are taken. You may not be able to present yourself in an organization and be consultative. Having said that, you can certainly identify good industry leaders as mentors for the projects which you get, which is no different from what you used to be doing. So you may have to identify some larger number of students associated with a best-in-class online mentor than one-to-one mentor for students in the days to come. So two things. A, do bite-sized, smaller empirical studies and secondary data research for enhancing your skill set and knowledge of industry, specialization, or the department which you want to join. Secondly, identify those mentors who can, come on a Google Hangout like this and take a session for people in groups rather than one-on-one mentoring. I think if you're able to do these two, you as students and MITE as an institute will be able to leverage. Increase the periodicity, increase the number of projects, increase the, don't increase the size of the project. Keep it short, keep it nimble, keep it bite-sized, so that you will have multiple opportunity to do in order to complement a large intention.
All right. Thank you, sir. Now let's wrap up the question and answer session. Can we have your closing remarks, sir?
Okay. So, team, whether it's COVID or no COVID, for students, teachers, working professionals, the world will stand up very, very quickly and people will forget what has happened. Let's leverage our time, our ability to skill up, our ability to reskill ourselves, our ability to leverage our time using the phones which you carry. Make sure you explore and exploit your ability to collaborate with people around, be it your senior, be it your teachers, be it your near relative who's got employed, and spend some time being healthy. And this is a time wherein we have a tendency to be in front of a digital world, and which might have a severe impact on your health. You have to spend time in doing floor exercises and consumption limited in terms of what you eat. Keeping the normal rhythm of getting up on time, every time at that time, and closing your hours, being in front of a digital equipment. I think as far as your discipline, in Kannada it's called Hita and Mita, right? If you keep these two aspects in control and continue to explore and exploit opportunity for you to connect with the larger world, which is currently been well equipped, both in terms of scale and scope, I think you will not find, or you will find only minimal impact on the environment which we are in today. Please ignore the unnecessary noise which has been created. Be sensitive, be careful, own the risk which you are carrying with you, be it financial risk or health risk or a job risk. Own it completely, more than what you have been owning it for several years. I think the more ownership you take of your life, I think you'll be better placed in the life to come. It's not a doomsday. It looks like one, but I think the ownership largely lies with we as individuals than the world which is being perceived the way it's being perceived today. Thank you so much. I thank Rajesh Chautaji, Prasad sir, Narendra, and Glenn for giving me this opportunity. It's been a pleasure to be back in MITE and available, and my availability to tell my little thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We've always known you as a person with a lot of positivity, and we could actually feel that throughout. I would just like to capture from what you say. It's not just a doomsday. It looks like, but it's actually not a doomsday. And you are of the belief that this mode of education is going to continue. It's going to remain for long. But as a young graduating student, what is more important is not just to improve your ability, but also to change your attitude to be ready to go online. And thanks a lot. You actually threw up light on every perspective, whether it's industry, student, teacher, or the institute. You rightly threw up light on all of them. And we could actually, you actually left a lot of thoughts on us in our minds to contemplate and look at changes that we need to make and to keep up with this pace. And you also highlighted a lot on collaborative learning, which we've always been stressing here at MITE. And that's something really great that you did today. And thank you a lot for being here with us today. And I'm sure every participant had a great time listening to you. And a great thanks to you for listening to each of our questions and answering them patiently. Thanks a lot once again, sir, for being here. On behalf of the management college, the teaching fraternity, and the students here at MITE, I would like to thank you once again. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thanks, Jensen. I loved your articulation skills. Wow, that's something I will copy for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Narendra. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir.